check out the new and improved Hannity.com. A lot of new stuff there. Can't mention it all. That's Hannity.com. And now, back to Sean.
All right, as we roll along, Sean Hannity Show. Toll free, it's 800-941-SEAN if you want to be a part of the program. So they had this debate over the weekend, and they finally broke down the time that some of the candidates got in this debate, and it wasn't very good. And Ron Paul's supporters in particular are furious because Ron Paul got 89 seconds in what was, a 90-minute debate that took place over the weekend. And a lot of people saying, you know what, you just can't argue with how unfair the distribution of time is. In terms of, for example, time given Rick Santorum was not particularly good in his case, and he joins us now. I've noticed that they try to avoid you a lot in these debates unless they want you to start a fight.
Yeah, I guess I'm the Mikey. Give it to Mikey. He'll eat anything, and
well, you did about as good as Newt Gingrich in this debate. Both of you got 963 words in. Gingrich 974. Poor Ron Paul only got 258 words in.
Yeah, actually, this was not as bad as previous debates. But as if you watch the debate, I had to sort of as is in the.
You got to fight your way into it.
You got to fight your way in. If you're, it's not just me. I mean, obviously, Ron has every right to be upset about it, as Michelle Bachmann does too, and John Huntsman also. I mean, I think John went 45 minutes without a question, and it's the same old thing. I mean, that the focusing on the candidate who's the top dog or the next in line, and all the debate sort of flows through them, and it's really unfortunate. You know this, Sean. I mean, you got 3/4 of the public that's still really undecided in this race, and for the most consistent comment I hear from people is, I wish we heard more from you, and frankly from some of the others out there, and that's I'm hopeful that in the future maybe now this will point out just how unhelpful these debates can be in really exposing the views of all of the candidates, which most people want to hear.
Well, in fairness to you, I don't think you've had a bad debate performance yet. I mean, in one of them, in our focus group, you actually came out the winner in it. And I know that, look, I guess polls do mean something. And frankly, I've been a little puzzled that you have not done better in poll numbers that have come out. And I guess the media thinks that it's in the best interest of their viewership that maybe they're using the polls to determine who they think people want to hear the most from.
Well, that may be the case. It's certainly not the case from what I hear when I'm out there on the road, and I'm spending all my time out on the road and working in Iowa. I've been to all 99 counties in Iowa. I've been to South Carolina more than anybody else. I've been to New Hampshire as much as anybody, and when we get out there and we meet with folks, we talk to folks, we're doing very, very well. So I'm actually very confident that we're going to surprise a lot of people when Iowa rolls around. And as you know, Sean, that's the poll that really matters. And as you see, I mean, now Newt's rising in the polls, and Herman's on his way down a little bit, and it seems like every candidate so far that's risen gets their bump and then starts drifting back down, and there's only one that has it, and I'm sort of slotting mid to late December would be a very good time to rise in the polls heading into Iowa.
What do you make of Newt's rise? What do you attribute that to? I think he's had strong debate appearances like you.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, look, I had a debate with Newt the other night in.
Yeah, I heard about this. How'd that go?
I thought it went very well. It was a little over an hour long, and it was a back and forth. It was, there weren't big differences between me and Newt, but it was substantive. You had a chance to lay out your case and why you believed what we believed. It was all on the Constitution and our interpretation, and it was people walked away feeling like they understood the candidates. We thought we did very, very well there. We signed up a lot of volunteers after that debate. So it would be nice if we could have a little bit more of a in-depth understanding of the issues from the candidates. But look, you got to play with the hand that you're dealt, and I knew that as you know, Sean. I mean, I lost my last race. The national media is going to be looking at folks who can raise a lot of money and who have a little bit, are new on the scene. And our feeling was we just had to go out and earn it the old-fashioned way and engage volunteers, people who believe in the cause, and try to build it from the grassroots up. And I'm convinced that that's the old-fashioned way of doing it, and it still works well in American politics, and I think that'll be proven out in January.
I know that the country is pretty much focused on economic issues, but I think you have shown throughout this process more of a willingness than maybe some of your counterparts to address national security concerns. Now, last week we reported that British intelligence is out there saying, it was in the Daily Mail, that Israel is going to strike Iran by Christmas. And now we're reporting today, and this was in the Telegraph, that Israel will not seek Obama's permission for Iran's strike, and I'm sure a lot of this has to do with Obama insulting Netanyahu when he was talking to President Sarkozy of France.
Well, the Israelis can't rely on the United States anymore under President Obama for their own security.
Pretty pathetic, isn't it?
It's awful, and the bottom line is that they knocked out 2 reactors in the past. This is another one that they feel that they have to knock out, and under a Santorum administration, we would be working with Israel to make that happen. But there's no question that now they've crossed the Rubicon. They have the capability technologically. They're developing the cache of plutonium that's necessary, enriched uranium that's necessary to detonate a nuclear bomb. And if thus they're stopped, the world will change, and the state of Israel's mere existence will be numbered. Their days will be numbered. I don't think there's any question about that. And states have a right to defend themselves, and we should be standing with our ally, not be critical of them and making fun of them like this president has. And under my administration, we would.
What do you think? So the conversation went like this. They didn't know their mics were still on. Sarkozy says, I can't see him anymore. He's a liar, referring to Prime Minister Netanyahu. And then Obama's response is, you may be sick of him, but me, I have to deal with him every day. And I'm amazed that this is now the third major snub of Netanyahu, when he left him hanging out inside the White House, got disgusted, stood up, said he's going up to the residence, and leaving him in the White House. And the second one, obviously, is when he did something that the United States had promised Israel we would never do, and that was call for a return to 67 borders.
Well, it's repeated, and I think there's even a larger issue here, Sean. I mean, the President of the United States seems to be annoyed by having to deal with foreign policy. He'd rather focus his time and energy on growing the socialist state in America and winning re-election and campaigning. And look at all his national security decisions. They're all based around politics, whether it's withdrawing troops at the end of the year in Iraq, whether it's withdrawing troops in the middle of the campaign next year in Afghanistan. All of his decisions really are focused on his domestic policy and his political success. And Netanyahu and Israel is a pain.
Their existence is hanging in the balance.
His own presidency, and he'd rather not have to worry about that. He'd rather not have to deal with that.
Well, let me play. Obama was asked about what he said when he didn't know his mic was on, and here's what he said.
Can you clarify your end of the hot mic conversation with French President Nicolas Sarkozy as it involved Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu?
With respect to the hot mic in France, I'm not going to comment on conversations I have with individual leaders. But what I will say is this. The primary conversation I had with President Sarkozy in that meeting revolved around my significant disappointment that France had voted in favor of the Palestinians joining UNESCO, knowing full well that under our laws, that would require the United States from cutting off funding to UNESCO. And after I had consistently made the argument that the only way we're going to solve the Middle East situation is if Palestinians and Israelis sit down at the table and negotiate.
All right. I'll be honest, I think it's just spin. I don't even believe him.
It's really not credible that you would have such condescension toward somebody and then say, when the mics weren't running, I was standing up for him. I mean, it's just it strains credulity, and this is a president who's put Israel behind the 8 ball repeatedly, and now is actively working, from everything you can hear, actively working to get the Israelis not to defend their own interests. Hopefully the Israelis will not listen to that, and hopefully we will stand by them, because if we don't stand by them, the international community, the anti-Zionists, the forces within the Middle East will certainly make a move against Israel in some form or fashion. And if we are not there to stop them, then Israel's mere existence again could be in jeopardy.
Let me ask you one more question on this, because I don't think people are paying as close attention as they should. When the Washington Post came out last week and said that now the IAEA, the UN watchdog group, that has said that Iran has nuclear weapons capability, it says intelligence shows that Iran received foreign assistance to overcome key hurdles in acquiring a nuclear weapon, according to the IAEA. And then it goes on to say that crucial technology came to experts in Pakistan and North Korea and has now helped propel Iran to the threshold of nuclear capability. In other words, this is now imminent. They're admitting it's imminent. So Israel, from my standpoint, doesn't have any time. And it means that the British intelligence report, which was leaked to the Daily Mail, has to be credible, meaning that it is within weeks that probably the Israelis will have to strike. Now, this is going to be probably one of the most difficult missions that they have ever had, because Iran has spread all of these sites all over the country, and now because Israel is surrounded by hostility everywhere, I don't even know if their planes can make it back without some type of foreign assistance.
Well, this is a complicated mission. I mean, you have to fly over hostile territory, if you will, in order to get to these sites. Folks who are not going to want your planes to be flying over there. You can use cruise missiles, which is maybe a more likely scenario than flying aircraft, because you don't have to get right. I mean, you can try. Those cruise missiles are very difficult to interdict. But this is the other issue, which is that Iranians have purchased technology from the Russians, anti-aircraft and technology that makes it much more difficult for Israel to conduct this mission than it did in Iraq and Syria. And then you mentioned a lot of these targets are much more hardened, deeper into mountains and to bunkers and things that make it much more difficult to actually degrade these facilities. So this is a much more difficult mission, which is all the more reason that the United States needs to get involved in this, because if we're not involved in this, then the likelihood of an attack and a failure to degrade and the complexity of now having attacked a neighbor, this is a lose-lose situation for Israel if we simply sit on the sidelines, or even if we support them diplomatically but don't support them militarily to make sure that the mission is successful, we could end up with a ultimately worst-case scenario. And that's something that, again, we cannot let happen. If we do let this happen, we are going to have a conflagration on our hands with Israel under attack and the United States being drawn in it one way or the other.
What do you think the difficulty is going to be in defeating Obama? I mean, do people underestimate him? I know the numbers, as we look at them today, right track, wrong track, the economy, his approval ratings, all indicate that on paper he would have to overcome an obstacle that no other candidate has ever overcome to win re-election. Do you think he is going to be that easy to beat? Is this a landslide potential here, or is it more difficult than people think?
Look, you can't be somebody with nobody. You have to have a candidate that draws clear lines, that gives people real choices, that lays out a very different view of the future of our country based on really the past. I mean, we could look at Barack Obama's past and we could tell what his vision was for the future. And I think that's very important. People are going to look at the candidates who are up against Barack Obama and say, well, what have they done in the past, and what's a good prognosticator for what they'll do in the future? And I think that's and it's always, I felt my strength is that I bring to the table someone who has a very strong, consistent record and can draw bright lines. I've never supported global warming and cap and trade. I never supported Obamacare. I never supported TARP. I never supported all of these things, which are these clear contrasts about the role of government in our lives and the importance of the private sector and lower taxes and less government. The other thing is, I think I bring to the table, and this is why I was successful in Pennsylvania, I bring to the table someone who has a vision about restoring the American family, standing up for our traditional values, respecting the dignity of all of human life. And in the swing states of Pennsylvania, Ohio, Michigan, those blue-collar workers that hold those cultural values are very important for the Reagan coalition to be able to be successful in winning those swing states. And when you throw on top of that the manufacturing plan that I have out there that's really focused on these industrial states and bringing these jobs back to Indiana and Pennsylvania and Ohio, et cetera, we've got a 1-2 punch on a platform that can really attract voters in the states that matter for us to win.
All right, presidential candidate Rick Santorum, Senator, we'll see you hopefully on Hannity soon, hopefully one night this week, and We'll always appreciate your friendship and being on the program. Thanks for being with us.
Well, thank you, Sean. I'll be out in Iowa all week, and I'd love to be able to do it from out in Iowa. And if folks can go to my website and please help us out, it's ricksantorum.com. We're running the grassroots campaign, but we still need a little fuel in the tank, and anything you can do to be helpful to us, we greatly appreciate it.
All right, Senator Santorum, presidential candidate. Don't forget Hannity tonight at 9 on the Fox News Channel.